Welcome to the RunIowa podcast. I am Rob Lindquist.
And I'm Ryan Lotz.
And this is episode 94 of the podcast. In this episode, Ryan and I are going to talk about nipples. That should be fun.
That's going to be unusual, that's for sure.
We're also going to talk to Ryan about his Lincoln Marathon PR and what he did to do that, so specifically speed training, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to have our of the weeks. So that's this episode. Pretty exciting, huh?
Very exciting.
Very exciting. Stick with us on episode 94 of the RunIowa podcast. All right, Ryan, how you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself, Rob?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm back. We took a break. So this is our first episode back from our break. I had a baby.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't. My wife did.
Well, it's still your baby.
Right, right. And so I took.
Hope so, right?
It's in the mail. We'll find out. Yeah, no. Took 2 weeks off. I haven't run in 3.5 weeks now.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to get back into running, but I was pretty excited. I shared on Twitter already the baby and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, ready to get back into running. Dave has tennis tonight, so he couldn't make it like he thought he was going to. So Ryan's filling in as our awesome sidekick host.
Guest of the week, I guess.
I like that, guest of the week. So we're going to talk about a couple different things, and we were just discussing before the show got started, nipple chafing. And just chafing in general, but specifically you said you had a story about you cut off your tank top or cut off your shirt for a tank top and only one of your nipples started bleeding near Lincoln. Now, before we get into the details, let's preface this a little bit. I've never had nipple issues other than I think for my first marathon, I had like a really hard nipple, which was weird. And I know this is very awkward to say whatever out loud, but nothing bleeding. If you've seen The Office, they do their 5K.
Yes, Andy Bernard.
Andy Bernard just has the yellow shirt that's bloody down the shirt.
Yes.
I haven't had that issue. I've seen that at races and things. Was yours that bad?
No, I've never seen that. It was just a little bit of chafing, but it was unusual to me because I don't encounter that. I've not encountered that before, and so it was kind of surprising. I didn't really notice it till the end. I noticed it a lot.
So you have a theory as to why this happened?
I do. I normally do not run in tank tops, but I thought it was going to be warm, so I took an old running shirt and I cut off the sleeves to make a handmade tank top. It was, I guess, pretty trashy. Maybe is a good way to describe it, but I didn't care because I wanted to run fast and stay nice and cool.
What was it? A cotton shirt or like a water wicking?
No, it was a water wicking material. It was actually the shirt I got from running Dam to Dam a couple of years ago. It was also white. That was
the white one. Yeah,
the white one. Yeah.
I actually just found that yesterday, and I was wearing that yesterday.
That's why I chose it because it was white, and I knew it was going to be hot, and I wanted to keep heat off, and so I cut the sleeves off.
Okay, and so then was it one or both? We're just getting right into the nipples. Yeah.
So one thing I think I would have changed. It was my right nipple that chafed the most.
Okay.
And I believe it's because I have a theory. I think it's either because of the pitch of the road. So the pitch leans slightly to the right because you're running on the right side of the road. And I think gravity pulled down my two shoulder straps. I feel kind of weird saying that. I feel like I'm wearing a bra, but
but you're like that's
okay. The two part of the tank top that go over your shoulder, I think it pulled them both to the right. So I think that's why my right nipple chafed. And I don't know if that's because of gravity, or I also thought another theory is because I cut around the neck and I cut off the sleeves.
Okay.
So I'm thinking in the future, I might just, if I'm going to do this again, I might just cut off the sleeves and leave the collar, not the collar, but the
neck?
Yeah, leave the neck in so that it doesn't fall to the right or left depending on the pitch of the road. So in the future, that's what I would try, although I did like the tank top for the coolness effect. It was nice and cool. The day was kind of warm, so it did keep me at a good temperature.
So that's actually what I was going to ask you next was about the temperature. It ended up being a hot day.
It did.
So you were sweating a lot.
I was sweating a lot. Yeah.
So do you think that led to your nipple chafing, or do you think because a quick Dr. Google search says that nipple chafing is mostly caused by the friction between your shirt and your nipple, and so if you're running a lot, maybe the I could see it being if you're sweating a lot,
Shirt getting heavy.
right, there you
Right.
go. And so there's more of that
Right.
friction.
So you just brought something to mind I did not think of.
Sure.
During the race 3 times, I took a cup of water and dumped it on my head.
Sure.
And my shirt got soaked, and that might have had something to do with it.
Okay.
And I have never previously done that before. I could feel myself heating up, and I wanted to cool myself down, so I grab a cup of water, dump it on my head, trying to cool myself down. I did that 3 times in the race, and my shirt did become soaked. Eventually, it, like through running in the wind and all, it dried.
Sure.
But there was a significant part of the race where my shirt was soaking wet.
So there are treatments for this. Did you do anything special for treatment?
Not prior, no.
Okay.
Not prior.
So no prevention.
No,
you just went right
I
at.
had no idea this would happen.
I'm going to get into a little detail here. I have hairy nipples.
Yes.
I have no chest hair,
Yeah.
but it's all concentrated, like orange juice concentrate right around one area.
Yes.
And so I've never experienced it. And even in my marathons, I've got close, like I said, but never
Right.
really had the rough bleeding or anything like that.
Right.
Prevention, there's a lot of things to do to prevent. There are some things you can do to help with treatment. So what did you do after?
So I asked my wife if she had any chapstick, and
Sure.
she did. So she gave me her chapstick, and I took off the lid and put it on my nipple.
Sure.
And my wife told me, she said, you can keep that chapstick now.
Right.
And I said, okay, I will.
You could do things like what's the cream stuff called?
Like Vaseline.
Vaseline, yeah, any petroleum type
Right.
jelly stuff, and chapstick has the same properties
Yes.
and things like that, so that's going to help out.
Yes.
You can prevent nipple chafage if you
Yes.
didn't know this.
Yes.
One of the most common things that I could think of, like the very first thing I thought of was the Band-Aids,
Right.
right? Just then you have that layer of protection, I guess.
Well, I also have that hair, and that might be a problem pulling it off. So
Oh, well, yeah,
avoid
that'd be. A couple things you could do: loose fitting T-shirts during your exercise. You could use the anti-chafing balm or jellies,
Right.
or maybe even a powder if you can get that to get on there. That sort of thing. Runner's World did a whole article about this, and they listed 8 things. I can post it on the website if you want.
Yeah, well, after kind of reflecting on this experience, I think it probably was the water and the sweat and the heat that
Sure.
caused the chafing. And had I put some Vaseline or gel or something on my nipples, I think I probably would have had less chafing.
So one of these is using unscented deodorants.
Right?
And so I actually do that, and I've mentioned this on the podcast, on places other than my nipple. And it works well. Yeah, legs, inner thighs, that kind of thing. And it works well for me. Now, I know some people swear by the powders. Some
Yeah.
people swear by the gels. Some
Yeah.
people say don't do anything because that's causing irritation. I guess
Right.
like almost everything we've ever talked about on the show, it kind of depends on the runner.
Yeah, I think it does. It's up to. I would say just try different things if you're having that problem and see what works for you. There's only one way to find out, and that's to experiment.
I do just want to. I think that's pretty good, and I think people can look up things. But the Wikipedia page for
Yes.
runner's nipple has other names for runner's
Yes.
nipple. I'm just going to read them. They're hilarious.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so there's runner's nipple. There's red 11.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't even get the reference.
I don't either.
If I just said something dirty, I apologize.
Maybe it's like 2 dice, with the one on the dice is like right in the middle.
Oh, there you go.
If that's it or not, but
That
the nipples being red, I don't know. It's a guess.
That's a very good educated guess. Raver's nipple, big Q's, red nipples, stingers, gardener's nipple. Never heard of that one.
no.
Athlete's nipple and nipple chafing. And this is not male specific.
Right.
Anybody could obviously get it. But with most men I know, well, I'm going to take that back. I don't even know how to say this carefully. Most women don't generally have a lot of nipple hair.
I hope not.
Okay.
If they do, I don't want to know.
So, do you think the hair is actually a detractor to nipple chafing?
Well, I would say probably your clothes probably come in contact with your hair first and
Sure.
alleviate some of the chafing. I would say.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I would say that's true. Yeah.
here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it out there. If you have a tried and true tip, let us know. Put it on
Okay.
the Twitter page.
Okay.
Hashtag RunIowa, and let us know what your nipple chafing remedy or preventive care, whatever it is. And if you have an awesome name for your bleeding nipples,
Yeah.
I don't know, like tears, blood of tears. I don't know.
Oh man.
Oh man. Am I going in the wrong
farm
spot?
references here, like cows and goats.
Oh no. Okay.
Let's not go there.
The utter truth is coming. Oh, come on. So we're gonna go ahead and stop with that. But we are gonna talk about you here in a second. We're gonna take our break. We're gonna come back and talk about your speed training that you've done and how that affected your run for Lincoln and what you plan on doing next. So we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this on episode 94. All right, very interesting conversation about nipples there, but now we're going to go on to talk about running a little bit.
Yes.
And so you're relatively new to the running and getting to races.
Right.
About your third year, we just said off air.
Yep, I'm my third year.
So your third year, and you decided to try something new for this year's Lincoln, and this year specifically, it sounds like, is the speed training, and you somebody else helped you out with that. So talk a little bit about what got you started in your speed training, and then how that affected your run. And by the way, I want to apologize real quick. So Ryan is our guest, and he's also guest hosting. So Ryan Loath's fifth time on the podcast.
Is that what it is?
Something maybe fifth or sixth. Yeah. So we have a little background. So go check out his older episodes with us, especially towards the beginning of the podcast when you first started.
I feel like Craig Evans on Todd and Tyler.
I don't get the reference, but I don't.
Well, Craig Evans, he kind of pops in.
The recurring character that. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so tell us about your speed training plan, what you did, and how you did it, and how that affected.
Well, so I was going to run Lincoln, and I'm going to run Dam to Dam again this year.
Nice.
So those were my first 2 half marathons I did during my first year. So I thought, okay, it'd be nice to PR. So I decided I needed to up my training, and I went to Hal Higdon, and I think it was their intermediate plan.
Yep.
And how to, get your own PR and beat your previous best. So my previous best was 1:50 in 0 seconds, right on the dot.
Oh, nice.
So my goal was to beat that.
Sure.
And I did manage to beat it. I got 1:46.10.
Nice.
And I think that the Lincoln half marathon course is tougher than Dam to Dam because Dam to Dam is a downhill course, whereas Lincoln, I believe you finish a little bit higher than the start because you don't start and stop at the same place.
Right.
So don't quote me on that, but I think it's a little bit higher. But so it was a little bit tougher course. I did PR. But one of the things that the training program had me do was some speed training.
Okay. So did you just find something online, or did you talk to somebody, or?
Well, I just went to halhigdon.com.
Sure.
And they had some descriptions for the various programs, like your first time running a half, if you're trying to really blow it out of the water, or if you're just kind of moving up. So I thought intermediate would be a good plan.
Yeah. I'm
trying to get better, but I'm not by any means an experienced runner.
Sure.
So I started doing some speed training, and that caused me to do, I had to start doing 400-meter dashes, and then I had to do tempo runs.
Explain.
TEMPO.
So tempo runs. Oh,
tempo,
yeah.
Not like a...
Like a monument?
No, not a monument.
Okay.
Not a temple. Not like the iPhone game Temple Run. Not like that.
that'd be good training.
Yeah, that's a little bit easier. My kids can swipe and play that. But so tempo runs with an O.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite get those at first, but I think I know what they mean when they say tempo run.
Okay, so the tempo run is? So
the tempo run is you build to a fast pace during the middle of the run. They'll give you a time. So let's say a half hour, or it might be 40 minutes. And then you start out slow, and you build your speed over time, and you maximize your speed, for close to as long as you can in the middle of the run, and then you slow down.
Okay.
And I think what that...
So you're building negative splits in the front half.
Correct. You are building negative splits. And I didn't really know what that meant, so at first I would try to plan my tempo runs. I was going to run this pace for this number of minutes, and then I would speed up to go to the next pace, the next number of minutes, and then get to the middle part. I wanted to run maybe a 7.5 minute miles. But what I figured out was that it wasn't so important to plan it out as it was to go by feel.
Sure.
So if I felt good, I should speed up and maintain it.
Sure.
If and maintain it as long as I could. If I felt I needed to slow down a little bit.
When you were training these and doing this kind of a run, did you run streets or did you find a trail? Because I find when I was trying to do a little speed work last year, I was running streets, but then the corner slowed me down naturally or stopped me in some cases.
I did run some trails. So there's a trail close to my house, the Field Club Trail. And
Sure.
I recently extended that south of Interstate 80. So it used to only go down to a little bit before 80, but now it goes south, so it goes even further. So I was able to train.
So just a tip there, stay off the streets if you're going to try the speed stuff.
I don't know if you have to stay off the streets, but I wouldn't go on crowded streets.
Sure.
I would try to go in a more residential area, and I wouldn't run a loop. I would maybe run a straight out line, and then when you reach the middle of your tempo, you just quick turn around and come back.
Sure.
So it balances out. Otherwise, I'm afraid you might run a loop and you might, come up short or long or whatever it might be for what your training's supposed to be.
Sure.
So, yeah. It was hard at first, but I think overall I got the feel for it as it went.
How long were you doing this speed work? Hey, there's my microphone. Sorry.
Well, so the tempo runs, I think the longest one I ran was 45 minutes.
Okay. But I'm sorry, so when did you decide to start doing the speed work for Lincoln, which was just last weekend, right?
I decided at the beginning of the year it was kind of a New Year's resolution.
Sure.
My training probably started in February.
Okay.
So the other hard part was incorporating 400-meter dashes in, which I went to a middle school close to my house. They have a track and stadium,
nice.
So I would run that. And that was hard because I haven't ran that fast in a long time, especially that fast for 400 meters.
Okay.
So I'd run a 400 and let's say I'd start with maybe 6, and then towards the end of my training I'd have 10 400s. And man, those gas you.
Oh yeah.
They really gas you.
Did you well, I'm going to ask 2 questions. One, did you do any fartleks or anything like that?
I do not even know what a fartlek is.
So fartlek is you're running a pace and then you sprint for a determined amount of time, maybe a distance, or if I'm just out on a trail, maybe I'm going to sprint to that tree.
No, I did not.
Okay. And then the other...
I did try to sprint my 400s, though.
Okay, so during those 400s...
Well, so it recommended that I run at my 5K pace.
Sure.
But I went faster than that.
Sure.
I thought it's a 400. Track guys run 400 sprints all the time.
Right.
If they can do it, I can do it.
Sure. The other part, or I guess the next question then would be, when did you start to see results? Was it like that first time you got gassed and you just died, but then the next time you went out and did it, you saw like, ooh, maybe that did work? Or did it take a little bit of time for you to say, okay, I can see this starting to make a difference in my training and my... Maybe I did a long run, an 8-mile long run for this half, and I was already at a faster pace by a minute or whatever it was. Because your overall pace difference between a 150 and a 146 is less than 30 seconds.
I think the 150 pace is 8:23 a mile, and I think the 146 is like 8 minutes and 9 seconds. So it's about a 14-second difference.
Sure.
So I noticed it pretty quickly, but without even really noticing it. So I did a couple weeks of the 400s. I think the first one was 6 400s. The next week was 7 400s. And then one weekend I went on about a 6 or 7 mile run. And I thought during the run, man, I am in terrible shape. I am so gassed.
Sure.
I thought that. And then when I got to my run, I realized that I had run the entire thing under 8 minutes a mile. Like it was actually like 7 minutes and 40 seconds a mile.
Oh, nice.
Which is much faster than I needed to go.
Right.
So I realized
But that was the whole length of that run?
Yeah, it was probably a 7 or 8 mile run.
Okay.
So I realized it wasn't just that. It wasn't that I was actually gassed and out of shape. It was actually that I was going much faster than I was used to going.
Okay.
And I was able to sustain it for a fairly long period of time.
Did you use a monitor then, like a watch, during that run, or you just...
No, I just plugged in my phone, turned on some music, and
then
just
took
run.
off. Okay.
Yeah, I just went how I felt. And I kind of went, I would say, at a pace that was pushing me, getting out of breath, but not like collapsing over.
Could you have talked to somebody? That's usually a standard.
No, probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
So
it would have been a struggle.
Obviously, it was a success for you.
Yes.
Got a PR.
Yes.
You have another run coming up in about a month, just under a month.
Right.
Continuing your training after your half, how are you going to do that with your speed training?
Well, I think I'm just going to go back to my old plan, and I've got, like I said, about a month out, so I'm going to take about 4 weeks and just start with 4 weeks left and just continue.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I am taking some time off. My legs were pretty sore after this last half marathon, so I'm taking a couple days off. I'm planning on running again tomorrow. I haven't ran since Sunday. I ran on
Sure.
the half marathon almost on Sunday, and I haven't ran. Today is Wednesday.
All 4 days.
Yeah, so on Thursday I'm going to be back at it,
Yeah.
and hopefully run another long run this weekend.
So, because I think you're in a place where a lot of our listeners probably are, is you're maybe just getting into running or trying to get better at running, that sort of thing. What sort of tip might you give somebody who is looking to maybe start a speed training plan? Again, I did one last year, but I didn't maintain it enough to where it made a difference for me, at least in a full marathon aspect. So what tips would you give? I
would say stick with the plan. So every time I've had a plan and I've stuck to it, it has worked.
Sure.
And this time I was not I had other things going on in life, with kids and family and things like that. So I did not stick to it with as much fidelity as I would have liked. So there were days I missed, and there were speed training days I missed, and I got to admit, there was a couple days when I was running those 400s where I might cut it a 400 short. However, when race time came, I was able to go. Okay. And so I would say stick with the plan, and that's what's going to get you there. It's your preparation that will get you to where you want to be. Okay. Not easy, but it definitely worked.
And you you said you had access to a local track.
Yes, middle school about 6 blocks away.
A trail is relatively close to your house.
Correct, yep.
Okay. Most people could probably find something. Your public school has a track probably, and as long as they're not using it, most of the time you can get on it.
Yeah. I would also say this. My neighborhood is hilly. I know I've said that in the podcast before.
Sure, yep.
So, for instance, if I were to check the elevation change on a 3-mile run near my house, that would be significantly more of an elevation change than I encountered at the Lincoln Half Marathon.
Okay.
So I'm having more elevation change in 3 miles than I would have normally in 13.
Sure.
At the Lincoln. So trying to keep up that pace on a hilly course, I think, makes a big difference. Because once you get in the Lincoln course, it's easier.
Right. Huh.
I just felt like I was cruising.
Because it's
flat.
Did you do a lot of hill work then? I mean, I know you just said that with your, but did you specifically go out there and say, I'm going to do hill work and pound these hills?
I live at the top of the hill, so no matter which way I run.
Okay, so my
run starts going downhill and ends, if I loop it, it ends coming up.
You don't avoid the hills.
There's no way to avoid the hill. Unless I park a car at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
But then I'd have to run back up the hill to get back down in the first place, so
Sure.
It's just, I do notice when I run flat, like when I run in Council Bluffs in the West End, it's flat. My times per mile cut down by about 30 seconds.
Nice.
So flat area makes a difference. Hilly, when you're training, I think it helped.
Cool. Well, thank you for those insights. And we'll take our break. We'll be back with our Of the Weeks and wrap up the show on episode 94 of the Run Iowa podcast. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Time for the Of the Weeks. We're going to make this one quick, if that's all right with you, Ryan.
That's good with me.
All right. So I'm going to start with the race of the week. It is the Marion Mother's Day 5K. It's a 5K run or 1.5 mile walk. You can find information at iowaruns.com on Marion Mother's Day 5K, and or at runiowa.org. Obviously, we'll have that information there on our Bitly. And it looks like a fun run. There's a race shirt that's either pink or white, and you can sign up your mother for that. It is $50, just so you know. We missed the pre-entry run. Pre-early bird race entry. So it is $50 for the run, but go check it out, Marion, and the Mother's Day 5K.
Every finisher gets a rose.
There you go. I like that.
It's like the reverse of The Bachelor.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. All right. Time for the... sorry, I just got that. That got me, right. For the tip of the week, and we were talking about this, and it relates really well with the Mother's Day 5K, is getting your kids involved with your running and how to do so and that sort of thing. And so there's an article that I found on Runner's World. I'm sorry, not Runner's World, on the Telegraph website from the UK. And they just kind of said, how do you do this? And you have 2 kids, and you want to. I have now 3, but my oldest daughter, she wants to run with me all the time, And it's kind of hard to always know. And so this gives some good advice about really the general sense of this is to make it fun for your kids.
Yeah. I had my kids have asked, a couple times if do you think I could do that, Dad? I'm like, yeah, you can do that. And I think of Devin Schoenig and his daughter running the Lincoln Half Marathon at the age of 9 and how impressed I was with that. And frankly, I'm jealous of that experience. I would love to be able to run a race with my daughters.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will happen. I hope it does.
Sure.
But they're 7 and 9 right now, so maybe it can. Maybe this is the time to ask them if they want to go for a run.
And there's lots of you've seen it all over the place. Maybe you haven't. But there's youth running clubs, like elementary school running clubs.
Yeah.
My daughter's running club is at her school. I think you have to be in 3rd grade to get into it, though.
Yeah.
Something like that. But they make it fun. And one of the tips on here is if you do go for a run with your kids, is to not also forget about yourself. Make sure you're warming up, stretching, if you're a little older, that sort of thing. But make it fun with your kids, throwing ninja kicks or punches or something like that. And just remember that they're not you. Right. So don't try to pass on all your bad habits or anything like that. But make it something that they're not going to regret doing. So I was telling a story about when I went for a 3.5 mile run with my daughter. She was, I think, 5 at the time. She rode her bike. And that was way too long, and she hated it. She just absolutely hated it. And so that last half mile of the run was me walking the bike with her, and she was complaining the whole time. And
you carrying the bike.
Me carrying the bike, and it wasn't any fun, and she didn't like it. But she still wants to run with me. So on my marathon training, when I was doing that, getting ready for a race, she'd want to, hey, Dad, can I come with you? And I'm like, I'm doing 18 miles today. That's not going to work. So what I did was when I got home, 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, I'd go around the block with her. And she thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and it's 5 years old, 6 years old. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So check out those tips. Get your kids involved. It's not just, if you need them to be active, fine, sure. But make it something that you and them can do together. Yeah. At least once in a while.
I would love to start running with my daughters. I think it'd be great.
So I have a friend in college who has the same running form as my 6-year-old daughter, where everything's flailing. And it's so fun. So the first time I saw my daughter doing that run, I was like, oh my God, that's Ben. That's my buddy Ben.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man. And it's just all over the place. But she gets done, and she's playing soccer now, and she gets done, and she's all tired, and she gets to me and she goes, Dad, how'd I do? And I said, you're just fantastic runner. You're great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, just as long as she's having fun.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly.
We'll take a break. We'll wrap things up right after this on the RunIowa podcast. All right, time to wrap things up on the RunIowa podcast. Ryan, any last thoughts or anything you want to share?
Well, I
led you into that. I knew the answer already.
Yeah, so when I was running in Lincoln, about mile, I have a couple stories. So one, I broke away from pack about mile 4 in Lincoln and was wide open, and there was a big headwind coming in my face. So there was one guy I tried to get behind. I thought, I'm going to go all NASCAR, and I'm going to try to draft off him.
Nice.
So I got right up behind this gentleman.
Now, at this point, you were running a 5-minute mile, right?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get down to 4:30.
Right, exactly.
So I decide to draft, and I'm right behind this guy, and he turns and does a double or triple take, looking at me and he looks frantic, I'm chasing him with a knife or something, or maybe I'm running with scissors. I don't know. But he takes off, and he looks at me, and then he weaves off to the side and just takes off. I'm like, well, so much for drafting.
Right.
So I think I kind of invaded his personal space a bit.
Sure.
So
were you in the open? You said you broke away from a crowd, right?
Yeah. Well, so I started out with a pacing group at 150.
Sure.
And then I felt good about mile 3, so I decided to pull away from them.
Yeah.
And then I would say that I was in between the 150 pacing.
So you kind of caught him between the. Okay.
We were both in between groups. So.
Nice.
And then another gentleman I was running behind. You were talking about your hairy nipples.
Right.
This particular person was very hairy.
Yeah.
And
more than just nipples,
shoulders back. There was tufts of fur popping out of all places.
Wow.
So, and he also had long hair. So,
Chewbacca.
Not far from that. So I wanted to run up behind him and run next to him and say, dude, it is 80 degrees out here. Take off your sweater.
No doubt.
Take off your sweater. But then I decided not to do that.
Well,
so.
he has an advantage, though.
And what is that?
He still had hair on his head, you said.
He did have hair on
I know
his head,
plenty of people where all their hair falls off their head and onto their shoulders and back.
Yeah, and then they,
Yeah.
I've heard guys who who don't have hair in their head, sweat gets in their eyes easier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Their hair
that's
catches a lot of
a
that
whole
sweat.
different topic right there. I like it.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's if hairy man had any nipple problems.
I don't know.
I don't wonder that at all. Now that that's in my head, I do not want to know.
He probably has a significant barrier between his nipples and his T-shirt.
All right, that's what we're gonna end it. That's a good podcast. Ryan, thanks for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
And everybody out there, if you're training, you're running, have fun while you're doing it. And if you bring your kids, do that as well. That's it for this week on the RunIowa podcast. Happy trails.
Happy trails to you until